what we do here is go back.
Hello everyone and welcome to the season finale of the Butler Press Pass. I'm Kelsey Casper.
And I'm Samuel Lederhaft. We are truly going out in style as Butler Athletic Director Barry Collier will be our interview guest in just a little bit, and much more insight as the 2018 spring sports head to their later seasons.
Butler Athletics has seen a lot of success throughout the spring semester thus far. To recap each team and their respective seasons, here are Peyton Keim and Chris Lewis with an all-sports recap.
I'm Peyton Keim.
And I'm Chris Lewis.
And this is our all-sports recap for the 2018 spring semester. The basketball team had a very successful year in Laval Jordan's first year as head coach. The team finished with a 21-14 record and won a game in the NCAA tournament for the fourth year in a row. In the second round of the NCAA tournament, the Bulldogs fell to the second-seeded Purdue Boilermakers. The highlight of the season came on December 30th as the team knocked off the number 1 ranked and eventual NCAA tournament champion, Villanova Wildcats. Seniors Keelan Martin and Tyler Weidman are the only departures for the Bulldogs as they look to rebuild on a successful year next year.
Although the season is still in progress, the baseball team has been excellent in Dave Schrag's second year as manager with the Bulldogs. Last season, they finished 31-20, yet this year they are already 27-12. They play team baseball. None of their players have outstanding stuff or power, yet they manage to pitch effectively and get on base frequently. Their Big East record sits at 4-4. They close out the season playing Big East powerhouse St. John's. Their performance against them should be a great indicator on how good this team actually is going into the Big East tournament.
With one more series left on the schedule, the softball team currently sits at 20-25. After dropping 3 straight to DePaul, the Bulldogs sit at 5th place in the Big East with a 7-8 record. The team travels to St. John's this weekend to wrap up their season before the Big East tournament on May 11th.
Over the weekend, the men's tennis team wrapped up their season with a loss in the quarterfinals of the Big East tournament in South Carolina. Georgetown pulled out a 4-3 win over Butler to end their hopes of repeating as Big East tournament champions. The team finished with a 14-7 record. With no seniors on this year's roster, the team is set up for a big 2019 season. For Butler Press Pass, this has been the All Sports Recap.
From jerseys to shoulder pads to cleats, Butler student athletes need a variety of equipment to perform their best on game day. With nearly 20 different athletic teams on campus, it is important for athletics to have quality equipment managers. With more on a behind-the-scenes look of game day gear, here's Butler Press Pass's Grant Anschutz.
Hello Butler fans, I'm Grant Anschutz reporting for the Butler Press Pass. And today we're inside Hinkle Fieldhouse as we're going to head to the basement to find out what role the equipment managers for Butler play in the day-to-day operations of athletics.
I'm Jennifer Johnson, the head equipment manager at Butler. I've been here 12 years. The role here is, let's be honest, mostly laundry, lots and lots of laundry. We have 20 athletic teams. We do laundry for most of them.
Outside of the large loads of laundry, Johnson and McDowell also said they play a role in designing uniforms for Butler Athletics, as well as tracking inventory levels.
Some of the fun things are building uniforms. We get to go through the Nike site, build different uniforms, where the numbers go, what kind of fonts, where the stripes are, what color those are. So that's one of the fun things I get to do. I think the thing I've learned, the practical thing I've learned is in inventory forecasting. So figure out what needs to be there, when it needs to be there, and what you could have to order and what you can reuse.
I would say by far the best part of this job for me is the interaction with the student athletes and the coaches and the staff. I love Hinkle. I love Butler Athletics. And the student athletes are just so awesome to be around, and I never look back and think I should have done something else.
Now, as you can see after that interview with Jennifer and Scott, the equipment manager role at Butler University is a very important one, and their days are certainly busy. For the Butler Press Pass, I'm Grant Anschutz.
Joining our very own Savannah Betcher for our final interview is Butler Athletic Director Barry Collier. Savannah, take it away.
Thanks, Kelsey. Barry Collier has spent 46 years in the sports industry. He began his playing career at Miami-Dade in 1972 and continued when he transferred to Butler in 1974. After graduating in '76, he began his assistant coaching career. He He made stops at Rose-Hulman, Seattle Central, Idaho, Oregon, and Stanford. In 1989, he landed the job as Butler men's basketball head coach until 2000. Collier then spent the next 6 years at Nebraska as head coach. He then came back to Butler as athletic director and has spent the last 12 years in that role. Joining me now is Barry Collier himself. Barry, thank you so much for being here with me.
Yeah, my pleasure, Savannah.
Awesome. So going from player to coach and now athletic director, you spent about 25 years on this campus. What really is it about Butler?
Well, that's a great question. I have a huge affinity to Butler, as you could tell, but in each of the roles I've had, there's been a process, a growing process that has led me to the next thing. And even within the job currently as athletic director, I learn more every day. But Butler is a great place for that to take place on a student level, of course, but also on the staff level, as I've found.
Right, so you mentioned that your role, athletic director, right now. So generally we know that an athletic director is in charge of scheduling, hiring those coaches, but what can you tell me about your job that I might not know already?
Well, the main thing is to lead the department in the way that supports the university's mission. And so what does that mean? Well, we've got about 450 athletes operating in 20 sports, plus the spirit squads that we have that are absolutely student athletes among themselves. And so having the right team together to lead them, so coaching staff and support staff, there's a significant amount of fundraising involved and revenue driving to support what we do so that we can bring in our alumni and supporters, but also not require support from the university from a financial standpoint. All of those things, for me, boil down to one really, really important job, and that is to attract and retain the very best people that we can. That's maybe a common thing in an organization, but it really rings true here at Butler in athletics.
So you, like you mentioned, you oversee everybody in the athletic department that's overseeing those people, but when it comes to the operation side, what do you really think is your busiest time of the year?
Well, I would say somewhere between the span of January 1 to December 31st is my busy time.
That leaves you about, what, five-minute break maybe?
Yeah, there's not a lot of downtime when important things aren't going on. Now, clearly, our seasons of competition, which begin in sometime in August and go all the way through June, there's that element that's different. But then when those are not present, there are many things that replace that in terms of seeing donors and meeting with people, and you have planning that takes place in the summertime. There's a little bit of time for personal time, vacation and all that, which would really almost have to take place during the summer given our span of things. But I also have a responsibility as a vice president on the president's cabinet, and so I sit with the other vice presidents and are involved in things way outside of athletics and Butler as a whole, and assist in that manner as well.
So moving forward, you said that your busiest time of the year is the whole entire calendar year, but what does a game day look like for you? Say Butler men's basketball, a couple games into the season, game starts at 1 o'clock. What does your day look like?
So a 1 o'clock start would mean that's a weekend game,
right?
Primarily a Saturday game. And there are a number of things that happen during that game, but most of which is set in motion well before the game takes place. So the literal operations of the game, in terms of the people that are staffed there for ticket sales, ticket checking at the door, ticket takers, security, traffic security, parking security. Then in the game, we've got a tremendous event management program that's led by associate athletic directors that each have their different areas, revenue generation and crowd control and so forth, hospitality. There's so many things that go into play. So my day would typically perhaps have a function somewhere else on campus, perhaps the president's home where he has tailgates for basketball.
In-home tailgates, right?
In-home tailgates where he invites people. So I would attend that. Then I would rush over to the field house. When we open the doors 90 minutes in advance of the tip of the game, we actually have a fair amount of people that are in the building. They can't wait for the doors to open. So we're interacting with them and making sure that they have what they need, but also catching up with them in a great scenario and atmosphere We have hospitality spaces in the Ephraimson Family Gym as well as in the Wildman Room, and I spend a lot of time in that prior to the game. We've made arrangements for one of the coaches, assistant coach, or maybe even the head coach to come in and speak to that group.
Okay.
That happens, and they're escorted back to the team and so forth. And then, the game begins. And I've got a number of things that are going on. I'm trying to be an extra set of eyes on the crowd, the game, the officials, the
Definitely.
TV, the in and out, the safety, and all that, handicapped people, making sure that we are sensitive to the needs of whatever the environment or the people are in the environment. Usually when the game concludes, I head to the locker room and or the media room to take in the comments post-game by the coaches, which is really a delicate time because they're fresh and emotional that
Right,
time.
whether it's a win or a loss.
Right.
Yeah.
And then making sure that the building is being broken back down, set up for whatever's next.
Right.
So it's a busy day, but I love it.
Okay.
And those about 18 days a year,
Yeah.
when we have about 9,000 people appear on campus and
Yeah.
disappear in the matter of 3 hours or so, those are important opportunities.
Right. Well, it sounds like you're doing a great job with that. So to actually make that game happen, you're in charge of building that schedule out as well. Can you tell me what really goes into building that men's basketball schedule?
Well, we give the parameters for the schedule to the coaches for the non-conference segment. And then you have the conference segment, the Big East Conference games, that are managed more by the conference office and Fox Television,
Okay.
who sets the games that they want, the matchups that they want. We all play everybody twice,
Right.
but the time that those games and when they want the games on their prime time television, that drives some of that. The non-conference is built to try to position ourselves best to make the NCAA tournament in the event that we don't win the automatic bid.
Okay.
So as an at-large team, you need a good resume that allows you to have played good teams, but
Yeah.
also have a good record. And so there's this combination of what's best as that goes forward. And that's, we have also X number of games that we have to drive our season ticket sales and revenue that supports all that we do. So it's a number of things go into it. And it really is not set until late in August or early September when the television dates all get settled for the
Right.
final time.
So that Villanova game took place at Hinkle last year, happened actually over Christmas break. What control did you have in that?
We don't have any real control over the schedule. The schedule should rotate over the span of years to have different dates for different opponents. We're not always going to play Villanova in the Christmas and New Year's window or during break.
That makes students happy, I can guarantee you
Yeah,
that.
and they but it's not something that can be controlled easily. One of the things to remember is that many of the schools in our conference have play in arenas that they do not own, and so they're the
Right.
secondary tenant in those cases because
Okay.
the professional leagues, particularly the NBA team
Yep.
that's in that building, gets first shot at the scheduling.
Right.
That's why it doesn't come out until it does, and when it does, many of the dates that they would like to have are gone.
Okay.
So they're left with whatever's the balance is. And we try to cooperate, even though ourselves and that school in Cincinnati also have their own building. We do cooperate to make that happen as well as we possibly can with all those parameters.
So kind of looking at the non-conference side, we just scheduled that home and home with Ole Miss. What was the thought process behind that schedule?
Well, one of the things that we think is important is to have a quote-unquote high major opponent on our home schedule every year, at least one.
Right.
And we don't have an automatic home game in that scenario. Those tend to be home and home matchups, even though the Gavitt games will bring us one of those every once in a while. So we were really in need of a high major, and you could say Autonomy 5 or Power
Right.
5. But there are other schools that fit into the category that aren't in that group
Right.
that we would consider. Just a few years ago, we played a home and home series with Cincinnati.
Okay.
Who's a very strong program and a team that we would play again in the
Right,
future
yeah.
because of that. They fit in that. So, but in this particular case, we needed a home game. And as you could well imagine, it's a lot easier to get a road game than it is a home game. But we found Mississippi willing to come here first,
Yeah.
and then we'll go there. We did just the opposite a few weeks before that. with Florida.
Okay.
We scheduled an away game at Florida this coming year, and then a home game the following year at Butler.
Perfect. So moving on, looking at the basketball side, so kind of moving away from the operations, you actually coached Coach Laval when he was a player here. What was he like as a player?
He was a very good player, and my time with him was his first 3 years here. We recruited him out of high school in Albany, Michigan. He played his freshman, sophomore, and junior year, and then I went to Nebraska at that point. He was a very talented player, a smart player, understood the game, and grew as a player in understanding what he could and couldn't do, or at least eventually couldn't do at the time, but improved in his time. He became a really good leader, and you could see that if he wanted to, that he would be a successful coach with the background that he had developed.
So you were the one that hired him this past year. What are your thoughts on his first season as Butler head coach?
Well, I think it was a very good season, given that he jumped on the train in the middle of June when the job opened up. And that's a difficult scenario because you don't have as much time to spend with the team to get to know them, and much less have previous years. And to take them to really within a couple of possessions of the second weekend of the NCAA tournament was quite good. Winning a Big East Conference tournament game was first.
That was
and
incredible,
was a good thing. And then periodic wins through the season of substantial opponents. Turned out that the Ohio State win was a big win. Certainly the Villanova win was a big win. There were others. I think he's done a really good job, and he's represented us in public and in relationships in an extremely good way.
Yes, I agree.
And so I think he's bound for great things ahead.
Yes, I agree. So kind of just wrapping up the season, the year as a whole, it's been a great school year, but what are some highlights that you've seen in Butler athletics for this past year?
Well, certainly the fall was a very good season for us. The fall season with successful soccer programs, men and women. I think we had good showings in volleyball and football and men's cross country. 5 of the 6 teams did really well this year.
That's awesome.
We were actually, as you would compare some of the competition and where we were relative to the Big East, we were probably first in the fall. Then in the wintertime, you have the 2 basketballs and swimming and the indoor track teams. And I thought that went well. As also there was improvement on the women's basketball side. We got back to the NCAA tournament
on
the men's side. The swim team had a number of individual accomplishments from the various swimmers. And now we're in the spring season, and that's going well with the baseball, softball, and lacrosse. Those team sports are in full go, as well as outdoor track and field, tennis men and women, golf men and women. So it's a busy time, and we're not through with this year yet, so we can't completely close the door. Don't want to do that, but we're on the way to a very good season.
I was going to say,
good year.
the time your school time is almost done. Vacation time is coming soon. Enjoy your time off over the summer, what time you do have, and thank you for telling us a little bit more about your job, Barry. It's great to have you here on the show.
Thank you, Savannah.
Yes, you're welcome. Sam, back to you.
Thanks, Savannah. We all know that the leadoff hitter for the Butler softball team, Jenna Foreman, has speed as she leads the Big East in steals with 32. But how fast is she compared to us here at the Press Pass? Well, our own reporter Phil Torr took the challenge to try and beat Foreman on the base pass, and this is how it ended up.
The 2018 softball season has been one that junior outfielder Jenna Foreman will not forget. The speedster has racked up 59 hits and 33 steals this season, both team highs. The shocking thing about Foreman is she did not even consider playing in college until her junior year in high school.
I never really was growing up, I want to play in college. I was never that kind of athlete, but then in high school, when I kind of realized that I was pretty good and could play at a higher level, I kind of looked into it and then kind of started falling in love more with the sport and more with the opportunities.
Foreman quickly realized she could play at the next level and began to look at colleges. Foreman said that even though she wanted to play in college, softball was not a deciding factor in her decision.
I kind of did my college search based on academics first and then softball second, as my parents kind of made me do that. I'm in the business school here, so I really chose Butler based on that, and then also having the opportunity to play at a pretty good Division I level.
Foreman bats at the top of the order for the Bulldogs, and for a good reason. She is known for her blazing fast speed, which helps her get on base and create opportunities for the hitters behind her in the lineup. Foreman believes this is her biggest strength on the softball field.
Probably just being fast. I can bunt and basically get on almost every time, which is really good. And then I can slap. I don't really swing away much, so slapping is basically kind of a running at the pitcher while swinging, so you get a few steps to first base. So that's definitely one of my strengths.
To get an idea of just how fast she is, I challenged Jenna to a race around the base paths. But to try and make it a fair fight, I had to bring out the PF Flyers. I also got a base head start to see if she could catch up to me. I came out on top in the first race, beating Foreman by just a few steps. But in the second race, it was a completely different story. So I just raced Jenna Foreman around the base paths, and as you can see, I beat her the first time, but the second time she left me in the dust. So the Bulldogs definitely have a good shot at making the playoffs if she keeps running like that. For the Butler Press Pass, I'm Phil Torr.
Joining me now for the last round table of the semester is Press Pass's Perry Wagner and Eric Robinson. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thank you.
All right, we're doing something a little different today. In order to celebrate a great year in Butler Athletics, we'll be hosting our own award show, the Press Passies, and we'll be recognizing a few of the many great athletes at Butler. All right, Perry, let's start with you. First award of the night of the Press Passies is Most Improved Player. We have seen many athletes grow up Butler, but who, in your opinion, deserves this award?
I got to give it to Kamar Baldwin. This guy wasn't highly recruited coming out of high school. He exceeded all expectations last year, and many doubted that he could take another step this season. And with Tyler Lewis gone, Andrew Travis left, Keithan Savage, Avery Woodson, there was a big hole there, and people questioned who was going to be Robin to Keelan Martin's Batman. And the answer was Kamar Baldwin. He had more points, more rebounds, more assists than he did last year. And you can forget those clutch moments against Ohio State and Seton Hall in the Big East tournament.
All right, Eric, the next second award is Coach of the Year. Who are you giving this one to?
There are a lot of deserving candidates. Men's basketball, baseball, women's soccer all had fantastic seasons, but I'm going to give the nod to men's head coach Paul Snape. He was named Big East Coach of the Year, led the Bulldogs to the third round of the NCAA tournament for the first time since 1995. 14-5-2 record. Tough to beat that. I got to give it to Paul Snape.
Definitely. The last award of the night is Most Valuable Player, someone who has truly made an impact in their sport, and in your opinion, the best athlete in Butler sports. Perry, we'll start with you.
I mean, how could you not give it to Eric Dick? This guy had the most saves in the Big East by 19, was selected to the All-Big East first team. And guess what? He's a great student as well, was the Big East Scholar Athlete of the Year. And to top all of that, he was selected in the first round of the MLS draft going to Sporting Kansas City. It was a year for the ages for Eric Dick.
Right. I'll call your MLS selection and I'll raise you
Okay.
an Olympic selection.
All right.
A national team selection with Paige Monahan. Same sport, different side of the ball. Monahan led the Bulldogs to the NCAA tournament for just the second time in program history. Was named the Big East Offensive Player of the Year, on top of a lot of offensive categories, near the top in others. It's tough to beat someone who was selected to the women's U23 national team, so I'm going to give it to Paige Monahan.
But this was a great year for Butler athletes all across the board. Pace Temple had an unreal season as a wide receiver for the football team. Keelan Martin etched his status in history here at Butler, and Anna Logan continued her dominance on the volleyball court. So all in all, it's a great time to be an athlete here at Butler.
Definitely many deserving athletes. Well, thank you guys for joining me, and congratulations to everyone who is a part of the first ever Press Passies. We have a lot of fun here on the Butler Press Pass, but while we enjoy bringing you the show, there's a lot of work you don't get to see on camera. Press Pass reporter Damon Rector went behind the scenes during practice this week to give you a peek behind the curtain here at the studio.
Whatever happened to predictability? The milkman, the paper boy, evening TV. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to.
everyone, and welcome to the season finale of the Butler Press Pass. I'm Kelsey Casper.
And I'm Samuel Wiederhalf. We are truly going out.
What's the rule? We anchor the show. We make everything spice up, you know?
Spice it up, energy.
We're the entertainment. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's what it is.
Perry, what do you bring to the table? Literally.
The roundness. The athletic director has shown in that interview, so I definitely get to be.
If you could change lives with anyone, it'd be Barry, right?
Oh yeah, I already feel like I know a little bit about Barry's life, and I definitely think that that's going to help both of us moving on.
So in a Freaky Friday,
The public knows you're in charge of hiring those coaches, scheduling those seasons out for all the teams, but what can you tell me about your job that I might not know?
Interviewing has become one of my favorite things because it's super in the moment. If you mess up, it's kind of bad, but I haven't messed up so far, so I'm looking forward to interviewing Barry.
What was your favorite interview question or interviewer?
Ooh, definitely Laval. He was so easy to talk to, and I think my favorite question was asking him how he's such a player's coach and like why he's so personal with his guys, and he just got really happy when I asked him that.
you can wrap it up.
She keeps asking me questions. Oh man, this camera. This is the greatest camera that anyone will ever have. I just want everybody who is in future Press Pass shows to make sure that they take care of camera 2 the way that I have. And it's really, really important that this camera stays as elite as it has in the past and continues to improve as time goes on. So thank you, camera 2, for an amazing semester.
Yeah. Siska, I got
Yes.
questions for you. What's
Yeah,
it
what
like
you
to be
got?
producer? Like, you know, you're running around, you're doing all these things.
It's nice to be able to kind of running around does give you time to like think of stuff as you're running down the hallway back and forth. But I don't know, it's a lot of fun. I'm used to it on doing it on like half-mile asphalt tracks where it takes like a minute to run from the booth back down the track and so. But you know, it's still a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
The class will come in here anyways. He said he just wants to practice.
Okay, yeah, let's roll.
I'm Grant Anchutes reporting for the Butler Press Pass, and today we're inside Hinkle Fieldhouse as we're going to head to the basement.
Okay, what do you like about this class?
About this class, I think, like, obviously the hands-on experience, but like everyone can do a different role, I guess. Like, so we've had chances to be an interview host, an anchor, working audio, working graphics, TD, what John's doing over there, working on the script. I mean, it's been the hands-on experience, but you're not pigeonholed into doing like only one thing. You can do a bunch of different things each week, and it's like not too. Since we only do it once a week, it's not too hectic. Like you can really plan for a show.
Make sure you do like a chair rotate, not just a head, so you're not talking away from your microphone.
No Eric in the shot.
Alright, so to another package, and then Sam comes back in place of Eric. Harry's off to the side. The class has been fun this semester. It's nice when the sort of students buy into it early on and building something from the ground up where we didn't really have anything. So starting with graphics, sort of the plan of the show, all that sort of larger level producing has been fun with the students this semester.
Butler University has had many familiar faces throughout its athletic history, but one has risen above the rest into a spot as one of the most beloved mascots even in the nation. For more on Trip and the Butler Live mascot program is Press Pass's Eric Robinson.
Michael Carlton Mark graduated from Butler in 2002 and now is in charge of the face of the university, Trip.
Trip is a dog all his own. I mean, he's got a mind of his own, which is typical of a bulldog, but he's a little extra.
Since Trip's debut on February 18th, 2012, that outgoing personality has been the one to define Butler athletics.
As far as English bulldogs go, he's a bit of a freak. Most English bulldogs, 20, 30 minutes of activity and they're wiped out for the rest of the day. And this guy can go and go and go. He has an amazing stamina and endurance.
On game days, Trip arrives right when the gates open, so we can say hello to some of the players before the game.
Trip loves a few of the players, and we think they do too. So he's got to say hi to Big Cat. He's got to say hi to Uncle Joey.
Then, right before the game, Trip does one final thing for the crowd. He runs across the Hinkle floor for the famous rawhide bone.
After the 5 starting players have been announced, Tripp will run from one end of the court to me, and I will be holding the bone waiting for him.
Carlton Marks said what he and his team have created here at Butler is something special and can only continue to get stronger.
What we've done here is made a national benchmark and a sustainable program for Butler to carry on maybe in perpetuity.
In almost 6 years as the mascot of the Butler Bulldogs, Tripp has come a long way, seeing a growth that Carlton Mark is very proud of.
He's done fine, and I'm pretty proud of the mascot he's become, and he's still learning, he's still growing, he's still doing a great job.
Tripp turned 7 this December, and he and Carlton Mark will continue to make their mark on Butler's campus, one event at a time. With the Butler Press Pass, I'm Eric Robinson.
While Tripp may be the face of Butler University, there's another symbol for us on campus, that court that we all call home, Hinkle Fieldhouse. To give us his thoughts on the building he spent his college career in, here's the Press Pass's Keelan Martin.
Bridges try to answer off the back of the iron. Jorgensen with the rebound. On those threes, oh my goodness. Wow, he is feeling it.
Hinkle Fieldhouse, also known as Historic Hinkle Fieldhouse, is one of the most famous venues in college basketball and one of America's loudest arenas. It may look like a regular brick building, but there is history behind it, and the history is special. I sat down with junior student journalist Jimmy LaFakis. Here's what he had to say.
You know, you got a day like today, the sunlight's peeking in through the windows. There's no place like it. It's an amazing place to watch a game, and it's just a lot of fun to go out here and see the Bulldogs compete day in and day out. I just love it here. You get a special feeling when you walk through this place. You walk in, you feel the history.
For the Butler Press Pass, I'm Keelan Martin.
Competitive video gaming, or esports, has hit Butler's campus for the first time this year. The Butler Esports Club is host to multiple video game teams competing in various events, including the Big East Invitational. The Press Pass's Perry Wagner has more.
Esports has arrived on the collegiate stage, and the Bulldogs start in the first annual Big East Invitational in early April.
Center. No one's there though. That's gonna be it. Clutch is up, and we are going to the Final Four.
The competition featured 6 of the Big East universities and consisted of both League of Legends and Rocket League competition. The Rocket League team held their tryouts in March, and member Henry Johnson says they were looking for a specific type of prospect.
So we're kind of just looking for people who could, do some of the things that only high-level players could do. People who didn't like ball chase all the time. People who knew to rotate and just play smart and who could play well.
The tryouts were eventually narrowed down to 5 players, then just 3. Those 3 players competed for the team at the Invitational and ended in an impressive 4th place. The League of Legends team didn't fare as well, finishing with an 0-5 record. Current Vice President Luke Renchick says he has plans to make the team much more competitive next season.
Hopefully next year we'll find some better players, a more consistent roster that can practice together and have more resources to be able to practice. I definitely think we'll do really well next year.
Both Johnston and Renchick believe that esports should be held in the same regard as major sports in the U.S. And the numbers, well, they back them up.
If college football and baseball and all that is being watched a lot, so can college esports. And there's not really a whole lot of infrastructure there yet. So hopefully I would like to be at the forefront of collegiate esports.
It is a sport. It should be looked at that. And I think more and more as it keeps growing, people start to recognize that. So I understand people think it's just a video game. Maybe it's not, it shouldn't be a sport. But I think more and more people are beginning to realize how much of an impact that this has, how many people are involved. And I think it should be more widely recognized as a sport, and it should be widely accepted for the great public type thing.
While the season has come to an end, the ever-growing presence of esports on campus and at colleges across the country doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. For the Butler Press Pass, I'm Perry Wagner.
We've seen a lot of great moments throughout this year in Butler sports, and us here at the Press Pass have chosen the best of the best for the finale of Top Dog. We'll each have 2 of our favorite and most exciting Bulldog moments for this year. So Sam, what do you have first?
Well, I'm going to take us all the way back to September in the home opener for Butler football. The Bulldogs battled in-state rival Taylor all game before a sneak play in the end sealed the deal for the Bulldogs.
It will be a 3rd and goal play, and this one's for the game. Puts a man in motion. Marty sneaks it in! Touchdown, BU, how do you do? 7 seconds left in the game. Butler takes the lead.
For my first Top Dog moment of the year, I'm going back just a few weeks ago when softball upset Indiana on the road, Fourth inning shortstop Claire Gilliland laid out and made this diving catch in short center field.
Was not fun stuff at all.
O'Malley swings, and that one looks like it's going to make its way into center. Beautiful play out there by the shortstop, Gilliland. How about that to get out number 2, diving play. Butler all over the infield in this game, too.
Back in the fall, this top dog moment was one of the highlights of junior Paige Monahan's career. Women's soccer was just 25 seconds into overtime with Villanova when Monahan scored the winning goal from 25 yards out to win the game and secure the number 2 seed in the Big East tournament.
Soccer here on BEDN. The stakes again. With a win, Butler clinches the 2 seed in the Big East Championship. Paige Monahan with a left-footed strike. She has Butler as the 2 seed in the Big East tournament.
Well, I think we all remember this date for my last top dog moment of the year, but I'm going to take it down to a specific play. Villanova comes to Hinkle Fieldhouse in early January after watching Butler fans storm the court just a year earlier. With little time left in the first half, Butler guard Paul Jorgensen pulled up for a shot that shocked the Butler crowd, but the result was nothing less of some Hinkle magic.
Bridges try to answer off the back of the iron. Jorgensen with the rebound.
On those threes, oh my goodness.
Wow, he is fielded. Oh.
And that's all the time we have for our final show. For all of us here at the Press Pass, we thank you for watching this first season. Be sure to tune in next semester for our more coverage of Butler sports. I'm Kelsey Casper.
And I'm Samuel Wiederhaft.
We have our credentials.
And now you have yours. Thanks, everybody.